Anime characters that worked hard versus those who were gifted their powers. First up, we got Eren for hard work and Luffy for gifted. Now, I would definitely flip this. I say this all the time, but Luffy's Devil Fruit isn't overpowered, he made it overpowered. Now we got Ainakoji for hard work and Koenji for gifted. I agree with Koenji for gifted, but Ainakoji for hard work is kind of hard to understand. Yes, he's an artificial genius of the White Room, forced through the most inhumane education system. But he was the one who stood at the top. He excelled at everything, which means from birth he was gifted to do so. Pseudo is much better for hard work. Saitama for hard work versus Gojo for gifted. Now this is kind of a no-brainer. You don't get that much epic baldness without working hard. Which character represents revenge the best? Trick question, it goes to Buggy. His revenge arc against Shanks is absolutely immaculate. But in all seriousness, let's break it down. We can take off Thorfinn and Eren from this list, and it's because their themes of freedom are far more powerful. On Thorfinn's road to freedom, he walks a path of pacifism. On Eren's path, his freedom is all about destruction. So when it comes to revenge, this has to go to Kurapika and Sasuke. Kurapika's revenge is symbolic within his Nen ability. As the chain user, he was meant to chain down the spiders to hell, but in the process, the only person he was confining was himself. For Sasuke, his representation of revenge is bent upon his darkness. When Orochimaru gave him the curse mark, the black markings that would cover his body represented an all-consuming darkness. Sasuke was an avenger. Who did it better, Green Bull or Madara? Now with Green Bull, I love the symbolic imagery, turning a lifeless wasteland into lush greenery, because the Marines are the walking wasteland. But who did this better? Well, the answer is obvious. It's Madara. He ran it up on the Shinobi Alliance like he's depositing checks in his bank account. He disregarded the fodder like they were loose change, and built up his focus on the tailed beasts like he was securing investments in his net worth and he was just diversifying his portfolio. Madara's pose goes way harder because it's Madara. Like, we should all be honest, he's one of the coldest villains in all of anime. And when it comes to stuff like this, there's very few who do it better, and Green Bull is not one of them. So who had it worse as a kid? Naruto or Luffy? Let's take this quote from Luffy at face value, that being alone is much more painful than getting hurt. So under that circumstance, Naruto had the more tragic upbringing. He had no parents or friends. He was completely isolated from the village and nobody reached out to him. But if we're talking about who had it worse as a kid, it's definitely Luffy. As a kid, Garp was constantly throwing Luffy in a jungle filled with monsters. So by the time he meets Shanks, he's already faced death more than a handful of times. Then he gets the Nika fruit, almost gets eaten by a Sea King, and watches Shanks lose his arm. Then he starts living with Ace and Sabo and spends a lot of his time in the Grey Terminal, encounters death a couple of more times, and gets increasingly traumatized by watching Sabo seemingly pass away. And this is just in the span of the first 7 years of his life. The average shonen NPC starter pack. Somehow I feel like I'm gonna be called out. First, their favorite MC is Luffy. Now, he's not my favorite, but he's top 5. And because my opinion is the only one that matters, having Luffy as your favorite MC is valid. Next, their favorite side character is Vegeta. Nah, they're not an NPC, they're just right. My favorites are Kakashi, Gyro, and Ishigami, but Vegeta is a great pick. Next, if their favorite antagonist is Aizen, which is also a great pick because Aizen is a top 3 antagonist for me. Next, if their favorite fights come from Naruto. Like, I get this, but Naruto has amazing fights, so this take is fine. If their favorite anime manga is One Piece, great, now we're explicitly calling me out. And lastly, if their favorite duo is Zoro and Luffy. Now this is an NPC take because Sanji and Zoro are the better duo. One Piece facts that people need to accept. So pretty much all of these will be opinions. Green Bull high diffs Luffy. How? When Green Bull pulled up to Wano, Luffy wasn't worried at all. All I'm saying is that if he beat Kaido, he's gonna beat Green Bull. Kid, low diffs law. No, he doesn't. Extreme high difficulty, I could believe, and some would argue that Law beats Kid, but even considering low diff is an absolute insult. Ulti mid diffs Dofi, in terms of family bonds. Otherwise, I don't believe this. Somehow, Kizaru negative diffs Luffy. I think high difficulty is much more realistic. And somehow, Sentomaru mid diffs King. I actually think this is negative diff, and let me explain. If he was moving with the Pacifistas, he's now moving with the Seraphine. And hey, I'll call that part of his power. So he absolutely dogwashes King. The best glow downs in One Piece. First we have Granny Kokoro, whose glow down was so impressive, it physically and mentally traumatized Sanji's ideal of a mermaid. Absolutely based. Next, we got Mother Caramel. Like an old tweet from Kevin Hart, she did not age well, and is absolutely heartbreaking. Next, we got Big Mom, and I'll be honest, I don't have a clue what happened here. Oh wait, I do. 85 children and cannibalism. And lastly, Shinobu, who's another anomaly in this case. Like, how did she triple her head size? More than anything, I'm honestly impressed. Anime characters that are equal in rating. First up, Luffy and Tenten. Well, this is just a massive insult to Tenten, the best character in anime. I think everyone watched Naruto just for Tenten. The fact that she barely shows up is a reminder to everyone that it could be worse. Next, Ichigo and this Titan. I know the joke behind this. It's because they both murked the main character's mom. Next, Gon and Tanjiro, which I'll be honest makes absolutely no sense to me. They are completely different characters in completely different stories. Nothing about their writing is inherently equal. And lastly, Eren and a goat. All jokes aside, Eren is the goat, but he still has nothing on Reagan. So, I love One Piece theories, but there's some pretty bad ones out there. For example, a lot of people speculated that Shanks was from the Three Arms tribe, and he has a secret third arm, and that explains why he didn't mind losing one to a Sea King. Another really bad theory is Mihawk is Kuina, which makes absolutely no sense at all. For a long time, people thought Kaido was a poneglyph, and that was meant to explain his insane durability. Most recently, there was the Zoro kills Kaido theory, which obviously didn't happen. Someone believed that Nami and Nojiko were celestial dragons, but if you do the research, you'll find out that Bellemere found them in the East Blue. But the one that takes the cake is the fact that Crocodile is Luffy's mom. And that's because people actually believe it, including me. What if Akainu and Aokiji replaced Kaido and Big Mom in Wano? In my opinion, if these two were the final bosses, Luffy and the worst generation would not have won. And this has nothing to do with power, it has to do with mentality. Akainu is a cold-hearted authoritarian. His only goal is to eliminate pirates by any means necessary, while Aokiji is cool, calm, and collect. He's relative to Akainu in power, he's forthright and capable. And despite their differences, they know how to work together, which is something both Kaido and Big Mom could never do. Kaido's only goal is to be defeated. He's there for the battle, while Big Mom is volatile and insane. So isolating the two of them was actually possible, and that's part of the reason why they were defeated. With Akainu and Aokiji, you're not gonna get that. They will just do whatever it takes to win and finish the job. Which of these duos is most likely to become friends? Well, I'll tell you this. It's definitely not Akainu and Luffy. Akainu turned Ace into a walking donut, and Luffy will never forgive him for that. And we know how Akainu feels about pirates. Gon and Pito is also never working. After everything Pito did to Kite, and the fact that Gon is completely unhinged, there's just no room for dialogue. Frieza and Vegeta is just as unlikely. Despite all the other terrible things that Frieza has done, he destroyed planet Vegeta. There's just no turning back after that. And so the only option that actually kind of works is Sukuna and Itadori. And that's because of the whole inner demon concept. So they'll actually have room for dialogue.